Well, I think we're 15 months into crisis, and the first part of the crisis was survival. And I think to a large extent, a great proportion of the industry had managed that survival. But I think we're only talking about the initial steps of recovery, and there's a spectrum of recovery from the domestic markets, particularly the US and Chinese markets, that seem to be there or thereabouts in terms of recovery back to 2019 levels. But for international and for long-haul travel, you're still talking about 75–80% below what it was in 2019. So it's nervous first steps towards recovery.
You really do have to spare a thought, don't you, for the CEOs running these big companies, the manufacturing companies, Airbus, Boeing, and the other airplane manufacturers. I mean, how on earth do you formulate some kind of business strategy in all of this?
Well, I think the overall belief will be that it will come back, insofar as aviation has faced a whole series of crises in the past. Nothing as bad as this one, it has to be said, in terms of duration and depth. But nonetheless, the underlying desire for travel is seen quite clearly, that when you have had individual countries that were starting to open up, the level of aviation bookings that were happening, particularly on the leisure side, was very significant. The problem for that industry now is, in the summer, that losing a whole summer for the second summer running is a whole area of revenue under the curves that isn't coming in. But if you can survive that long, the underlying demand is undoubtedly going to be there.
It's business travel, though, isn't it, that pays the bills of all of our economy seats? I mean, what if business travel doesn't come back in its previous form?
There's a massive range of estimates been made by people, everyone from Bill Gates to McKinsey to Oxford Economics, and the range of those recovery scenarios for business travel seems to range from sort of 50% will come back to 95% will come back. Most people are feeling there is some element that won't come back, and I suspect that could be more the within company travel. But nonetheless, I think it's the case that whether you're talking about conferences and exhibitions and so on, there is a need to meet face-to-face, particularly in international markets where you've got to understand the other parties in a way. So we may see at the edges a certain amount not coming back. But the other thing that's been interesting is that leisure has actually started to pay a bit more for the luxury product, if you like, and particularly the space that you get in business or premium economy or first. So there are leisure travellers out there prepared to pay a bit more, but not as much, obviously, as the underlying business market.